to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now today we will take a look at the classic Jay Garrick. Now we did receive a version of this character from the Speed Metal, but of course everybody was anticipating getting a classic version. Now, not so much a old school classic Golden Age version, but it is a more modern classic representation of this character. Been holding on to this figure for a couple of weeks, so I am really excited to take a closer look at him. Now he does look pretty fast in the packaging, but let's go ahead and get into it. But first, he does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stamp. Now these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. He also comes with his data file card. On the front you do have some comic book source material, an image of the classic Jay Garrick. This one does say that he is from the Flash age, and on the back you do have some information. Pretty cool. Now, although this guy does go way back to the golden age of the comic books, not too certain about a lot of the different versions of Jay Garrick that have been released. Of course, he's been in animated versions, live action versions. He is the original quote unquote Flash from the comics. And of course, Barry Allen, Wally West, they all came after him. But he is known to mix it up even with Reverse Flash, which is pretty cool and interesting. So he is an iconic character from DC Comics. Now he does come with some accessories. First up, he does have two running hands. Now these also look kind of like karate chopping hands, and in all honesty, I'm not a big fan of these running hands. Now I do love that McFarlane gave us some accessories, some alternate hands. But I pretty much like to pose this guy with his double fist, but it is really appreciated to get the alternate hands. Pretty cool. And of course, like usual with the Flash figures that McFarlane releases, he does come with some Speed Force effects. Now these are kind of interesting because you have one that's kind of like a motion, kind of solid piece of Flash Force. But then you also have two other ones that look more similar, but of course you could latch these on. It's only limited to your imagination or to latch these on and use them in posing or your action figure photography. So pretty appreciative of that. It will go into the box of Flash accessories for now. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at him. Now I have been looking at this guy in the box for a couple of weeks and been really looking forward to opening him up. You have that classic Jay Garrick costume. Now there is a lot of differences from the different versions that have been done in the comics. Like you might have a belt, like an actual belt buckle, and then the pants sometimes are like jeans. This guy seems to have like some cloth, wrap hands or something like that. But it is accurate to a certain version in the DC comics, so that's pretty cool. Now he does cut out a pretty aesthetic silhouette. I mean, the wide shoulders, the narrow waist, going down into the trunks, it's just like an awesome, really aesthetic, definitely a lot of posing possibilities. Really cool. Let's take a look at the head sculpt. Now I know this is kind of gonna make a lot of people mad out there. I am a big, huge fan of the side-eye, and I know I'm in the minority because of that. I've actually done a video on how I don't really see a lot of things the way a lot of collectors do, but I love the side-eye. It just gives a figure like a little bit of life, and although it does limit the way you can pose them, like they have to be in a certain pose to actually get the effect from the side-eye, I just love the way it brings a lot of life out of each figure that has side eye. Now I do prefer kind of a skew eye, which means that it's not necessarily like all the way to one side. It's just kind of, you know, cock angled a little bit. But this guy definitely has some deep side eye, like pointed towards the left direction. Now I don't know if this is just my figure or if a lot of the figures actually came with this, but I'm actually loving it. Now I will be buying another one of these to keep in box, and I just might buy an extra one to customize or whatever. And for me, this is far superior to that dead, like uncanny valley mannequin looking eyes that sometimes the figures have, where they're just looking straight out into space. And I know this is a personal preference, but it is my preference. So I actually really love this, and it's going to be cool to get them in some running poses with a little bit of attitude looking to one side. Now after that, you do have a nice face sculpt. There, all the details are there. You do have some different skin tones. I'm telling you, McFarlane is actually doing a lot more with basically the heads. Like, he's not skipping out on the paint on the heads, but you might be missing some paint from the figure. But the heads, they're really going all in and adding a lot of detail. Now, I actually remember him more as a dark-haired character. Sometimes they even have him with some white hair on the temples, sort of a Parallax Hal Jordan style. But this one has just like a kind of blondish, dark, like kind of brown, like light brown tone to the hair, which is all good. And of course, he has his classic kind of Mercury styled helmet with the wings on the side. Now, the paint for this is kind of dull, so we will be taking a look at shining it up a little bit and giving it a little bit more of a reflective paint. But all in all, I'm really happy with the head sculpt. Now, he does look down very well, and you can actually get him to look up pretty well without any modding or anything like that. You could just, you know, heat him up and get him a little bit more range. He will look up for you. You do have right to left. And of course, you could tilt his head for some attitude. All in all, awesome head articulation. Really, really happy with this figure so far. Taking a look at the suit, he does have that upside down thunderbolt, which is a classic symbol for Jay Garrick. And moving down into that classic kind of yellow sash belt with the trunks. Now let's take a look at the waist articulation. You do have side to side at the waist. Nice. You do have that full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, giving them a lot of range. You got a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You can twist them, get them in some cool action poses. They did a really good job of making it all snug, fit together. The waist joints, they move really nicely. Now let's take a look at the crunch. He actually does have a pretty good crunch. Now this is probably the 10th figure in a row that actually has a really nice ab crunch. You can actually see the upper part going over the lower abs and almost touching the belt. And of course, he could lean back with the best of them. Taking a look at the shoulders, I really like kind of this cannonball shoulder design where they're really like, the shoulders are really sticking out and gives them a cool like aesthetic look. And also you got that socket bushing design by McFarlane that gives you a lot of range and movement. Actually pretty smooth. You have up and down, front to back, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, passable. And then going down from the shoulder into the hands. Now, you can't really tell, but this whole suit actually has a really nice grain texture. Like, it's not even a micro bead texture or like a leather texture. It's just a weird, like, kind of feathered little texture that you could see in there. And it's so small that it's hard to even see or describe it. When you turn the figure, you can actually see all the little grain that it has in there, which is really nice. Moving down into these like hand wrist wraps, And it does have a ball joint, but it is actually hidden really well, and you still get the 4 ways of articulation. Now on the other side, it is the same thing. You can like pop this out really simply and actually add the running hand. But I just actually really like the 2 fists, especially for this classic Jay Garrick, who's more like a fisticuffs kind of character. But you can use that, running action hand if you would like. So that's pretty nice to have that option. But I prefer them with the 2 fist. Now you can get him in a classic T pose. Can't really get much more than that, but you can move his arms above his head. And he actually has some cool range with his fist almost touching above his head. Moving down into the thighs, let's check out the thigh swivel. He actually does have a really nice thigh swivel. Now you can heat this up and probably get a little bit more swivel out of it. But what that allows is that without a thigh cut that will actually break up the beautiful sculpt in these legs, you actually can move his boot from side to side without having that, which actually is an awesome design by McFarlane. Now he can kick up super high, and when the trunks flex like this, do not be worried. They are actually designed to move out of the way. So when he kicks back, even though the trunks get kind of bunched up a little bit, when you put his legs back, they actually go back to their original form. Can cock out his knee. He does have that sweet McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees. Straighten them out. You have a nice range up and down at the ankle, and you actually have a sculpted out ball joint there for the ankle, which is really seamless the way it goes from the leg into the boot. You got right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Before we go, let's take a look at the lower body. Now, you got so much detail in here, it's kind of hard to see, but you got wrinkles, even in the trunks. Throughout the suit, you got a fine sculpted out line that goes down from the top of the hips to the top of the boots. And then getting into those boots, they have their own like kind of really fine leather, kind of leather style texture. And the boots have a lot of cool design and shape to them. Just an awesome, beautifully sculpted figure from McFarlane. Really getting close to being a 10 out of 10 figure. Even though I don't rate the figures, this one is really nice. Take a look at them from the bottom. You don't have any tread, but you do have some identifying marks. Moving up the back, you see that nice sculpt work in the boots. Going up the legs, you even have some sculpted out hamstrings there, really nice. And then into the back. Now I love this back sculpt on this figure. It's just so wide and like goes down to a narrow waist. It looks really awesome. Love me a beautiful back sculpt. And if you get the shoulders, they actually fit into these cutouts to give you some more range in the shoulder joint. That's just really spectacular. So awesome figure. I'm really happy with him. I don't usually say like don't sleep on these, this is a must buy, but this one is really awesome. I'm really enjoying him. He looks really cool in that classic uniform, and I highly recommend, if you come across him, go ahead and pick him up. He looks really cool. You'll be able to get him in some awesome running poses with all that added articulation. So it's just up to your imagination how you could get him in some cool poses. Now I did do a little bit of changes on here. The one thing was like up here on his collar, he has one button, and I know this is traditional in the sort of Jay Garrick costumes that he has like a flap over over this side of his on his breast. But I did paint it in like some gold bronze just to add that one little detail. And then also the helmet. Now I did hit the helmet with some like chrome, paint, but I didn't get it completely good. But I mean, I could go back and tape up these wings and then get it to look the way I more wanted to. I was just kind of in a rush to show you guys what I wanted to do. But I'm sure you do get the gist. It is to make this helmet more of a chrome reflective silver helmet. But it is there. You can see what I was going for, and I can, like I said before, touch it up again, make it look a little bit more perfect. Now, let's go ahead and bring in my DC Signature Series Jay Garrick. This is from Mattel. Now, you can really see the inspiration and the familiarity that these two figures have. Now, Jay Garrick is like an older, more rugged character in the comics. Although there are some differences, you could see the resemblance. He does have that awesome vac metal chromed helmet, which is what I was trying to get from this guy. And there's certain other things that I could take as inspiration. Now, I might end up buying another one of these to have in his original release form, but I'd really like to do some customizing and add some shading and stuff like that to bring out the sculpt in this figure, because he's really, really awesome. Now, we did get another Jay Garrick from McFarlane, and that of course was the Speed Metal Jay Garrick. Now, a lot of people sleep on this one. He is really unique, and that is probably his best feature. Really out there design with the spikes and the chains. He has that face tattoo, which is, you don't really see every day, but he's cool. But this is your classic Jay Garrick version. Really cool if we were to get like a Spectre, maybe even throw in an Hour Man in there. Just get some of those older Golden Age characters would be pretty cool. But this guy's gonna look awesome up there on the shelf. I'm really happy with him. You guys keep punching out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.